Okay, so our topic for today is the week 11 in your LMS, which is the labor migration. So we are going to discuss here about the laborers who are having their employment outside the country or outside their hometown. Because if we talk about labor migration, it's uh it's a matter of those employees why they are working outside the country uh for any reasons, because we believe that people are going abroad or working abroad because they believe that this is the only way to change their lives, to change their situation, and they think that this working abroad has a different can be a great to receive a great compensation, because every country has their different policies towards the compensation and benefits. Okay, so our learning objectives here is to understand rather the definition of migrant workers, and to explain the attractiveness and accessible of migrant workers. When we say migrant workers or migrant laborers, these are the people who serve as workers or laborers around the world. Example of that are the OFW or the overseas Filipino workers. Those are the migrant workers or laborers. They used to work abroad or outside of their home country, of course, for any reason. Example, in the Philippines. Why are there so many OFWs or people who work in an overseas? Because of many reasons. First, the salary they get here is not enough to sustain their families. Okay, that's the first one, based on the people who work abroad. Second one, the job here in the Philippines are difficult to find because unemployment rate is approaching in our country. There are a lot of people who have no jobs, and so and for the job seekers, they don't get a job here in the Philippines or domestic. That's why they used to apply or to work abroad. And the third one, because they used to work abroad or outside the country because they want to change their situation or to change their lives. Because every people who work abroad, it doesn't mean they want to live there, but they are only want to save uh enough savings, and then they're going to settle or to go back to their home country for good if they have investments. Because having an investment in the Philippines in a form of employment, yes, we can still get, but it takes a time. But if you work abroad, excuse me, if you work abroad, you can easily get those investment for as long as you can save a lot. Okay, so of course all countries need some of their citizens to work as laborers, because what we call this, it's just because they need they need also our native employees to work in our own country. But there are some countries have too many laborers, regardless if it is what they call this, it is a native or expats, all right, or overseas workers rather, in a sense. Okay, because especially example in the Philippines, of course, we need also our citizens to get our job in here. That's why our Department of Labor and Employment and the POEA are doing a lot of things or programs for the people in order to reduce to provide employment in the Philippines, and to reduce the number of manpower who work abroad. Because if people who work abroad, we export manpower to other countries that they're in need of laborers or they're in need of workers, especially right now in the foreign countries. Why they love or they want Filipino workers to work for them? Because Filipinos are very hardworking and very dedicated to their jobs, because a job is very valuable to Filipino people to earn a living, to earn a living and to support the family. And there are a lot of stories of OFWs which are admired by the foreign employers. And same with the other countries. They are not only Filipinos are overseas workers, even in the third world country, which there are also other races who are an overseas workers in abroad. Okay, and other countries need more laborers. Yes, because there are some countries need more laborers if they need additional manpower, and we cannot get a native employees in their country, then they used to import laborers from other country. Example, in the Middle East. Middle East is in need of manpower. That's why they import manpower. They have employment agency in the host in the countries, in every countries, in order to export to export Filipino, not only Filipino workers but even laborers in other races. That's why in every country, of course, the culture the culture is different. And also the laborers of each country has a different skills and talents. That's why it is also part of the getting a laborer is recruitment screening on the if those laborers are qualified or the applicants are qualified and fitted for the job which they work for it. So the additional laborers, they have to come from another country, because some laborers move to another country for work, and most of the time people are going abroad or move to another country for work. Okay, aside from being an immigrant, or say immigrant, they used to go in a country and live there. Of course, it starts with a migrant. You need to go abroad to work. And in the latter, if there's an opportunity to be a naturalized citizen of the country, then there must be another step. But it will be depending on the laborer if they want to be a naturalized citizen of the country, or they need to go back to their home country to be with their family or to start a new life once after they earn. Especially example is the OFWs. That's the most thing that OFWs are doing. Once they already earn savings enough in abroad, they are not only working forever in abroad. They used to earn money, okay, and to support the family. And once they have savings and they have investments on the properties and everything, they have to go back here and settlement for good. Okay, but please take note that increasing numbers of people are changing countries for work, and also it depending on what particular job or the nature of job which in need. Example before we are really in need of a nurses or a health workers. That's why not only the Philippines and other countries are exporting nurses. Okay, and the demand for the nurses will decrease in the pre-pandemic, because most countries have enough workers for nurse. But in these times of pandemic, the health workers, the nurse are also demanding because for the COVID-19 response. Okay, that's an example of it. So migrant laborers are also people moved to another country for work and to leave home and family behind. Yes, that's the saddest thing. Sometimes we sacrifice our belongings to work in order to sustain their needs and to sustain or to survive the living. Okay, that's the bottom line. It will be depending on the situation. Although sacrificing your family belongings, leaving them to work and to improve your life is just of course it's the feeling of those things. And migrant laborers seek perceived opportunities that also do to have a job, the higher incomes and improved living standards. Yes, this is the reason why they are working abroad. As I said earlier, to get a job, not only to get a job, to earn a higher income, because there are some jobs here in their home country. The salary and the compensations are not enough to sustain the family. That's why they used to work abroad to get a higher income that will sustain all the needs and to earn savings. And of course, to improve the living standard, because this is the most belief of the people, not only the Filipino overseas workers, but even the other races. That if they work abroad, they will improve their living standards and they improve the way of living. Okay, especially if they feel on a poverty situation. Okay, look at the figures on how countries compare for immigration factors. We say immigration, there are, we say immigrant, those are the people who used to work abroad and to work and to start a life there. Look at the ranking here from 1 to 5. So from those countries, then in rank number 1, the need for the migrant laborers are Japan. Yes, because Japan has a lot of technology based that need manpower to operate. But right now, Japan are very, you know, are not really open for some for country, but they have to select their workers there. Okay, and attractiveness, attractiveness to the migrant laborers, kasi attractiveness for the people who want to work abroad, which country which they want, of course, the United States. Everybody wants to go in United States of America. Why? Because aside from the work, what really attracts there is to be an immigrant. That when you get a work, there is also a law to become a natural citizen, or maybe you want to get married an American citizen, or what so are things you do to be a natural citizen that always can do, and the income that you earn from the United States are also good. But the accessibility to migrant workers, the access to work is Australia. Well, I heard a lot of people who used to work in Australia to live and to be an immigrant in Australia, to live for good. Because Australia is also an open country for the workers, not only for the workers, even for the an immigrant people there. In the rank number 1, the need for migrant laborers, Japan. But Japan is very strict to import people in their country because they used to patronize first their citizens. But when it comes to the attractiveness of migrant laborers, United States, but it is also hard to go United States because you really need a lot of paper to go there. Even in Australia, but Australia, let's say access, this is the country that can easily go by the people, by the native people. Okay, and the rank number 2, the need for migrant laborers is Italy in the Europe, but for the attractiveness to migrant workers is United Kingdom, the second to the rank. And for the accessibility of migrant laborers, the second one is Canada. Yes, because there are some people, if they don't want, if they feel hard to go on United States, and because Canada is the boundary of United States, then Canada is the access to go there. Okay, and the third one, the need for migrant laborers is Portugal. Attractiveness to migrant laborers, of course, Australia is also attractive as number 3, but they are number 1 when it comes to access. And even Singapore is also the number 3 in access to migrants. Say access easily to go to that country to work. Especially in Singapore, it's an easily also access to work because many Filipinos are also working in Singapore because Singapore is very near to our country, the Philippines. And the fourth one, and the need for the migrant laborers are Finland. When it comes to attractiveness to migrant laborers, of course, Norway is the fourth one. Attractiveness because also the country of Norway is good and very peaceful country and access to migrant workers. Of course, New Zealand, because many people are also working in New Zealand, and even immigrants, because there are some Filipinos who are also working in New Zealand and also an immigrant, because because in New Zealand people are only few. New Zealand is in the Pacific, like Australia. And the fifth one, for the need for the migrant laborers, are Czech Republic. For the attractiveness of migrant laborers, France. Of course, France is also attractive to migrant laborers. Why? France is in the European country. France is the center of the fashion. Okay, and even access to migrant laborers. The fifth one is Israel. Okay, of course, in Israel they are in need of access to migrant laborers. Israel in need of caregivers. Okay, and Israel is also one of the richest country in Asia, as part of the Middle East countries. Okay, so those are the countries, comparative countries when it comes to immigration factors, or when it comes to migrant laborers, when it comes to the country who are in need. Okay, who are in need, and then the country which are very attractive to migrant laborers to go, and of course the access to the laborers to work. Okay, so of course, so what do you mean by the need of migrant laborers? Okay, so the need, because there are some countries, because these countries are, what do you call this? These countries are really in need of the laborers. There are some countries that if the native employees or native workers are not enough, then they need to import laborers. That's why, on going back to this, on those countries in the need for the migrant laborers, the native employees are also not enough for other jobs. That's why they used to import outside laborers. Okay, so also the proportion of the working part of the need of migrant laborers is the working age population, because the age has also influenced, because there are in the developed countries. Okay, old people are very accessible, or old people are also in need to work there, because, as example, in the Philippines, if the person reach the age of 30 to 50 or 40 to 50, it's very hard for them to look for a job, because many employers are looking at young people. But there are some countries that there are not enough young people or children to work. That's why they used to import young laborers and old laborers as well. Okay, when it comes to the attractiveness of the migrant laborers, so these are the countries are more appealing. I say more appealing, attractive to not just a work, but can be attractive to live and to start a new life. And this attractiveness it influence, including the rich countries, especially if aside from the employment opportunity, there's also an opportunity to be a naturalized citizen. Example, in the United States. Why are people, they want to go there aside from work? Because they want to start their lives with other country, because they don't want to live in their home country, which they experience a poverty. And we are not exempt, all of us are not exempted to it, because many people are dreaming to live in other country, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, because what we are only looking for is to have a better life, and all of us wants a better life, and this is the way that they have to do the better life. That's why laborers are not just only working, but when it comes to attractiveness, that they used to make a new life, then it will be, because part of the attractiveness is to get not only to get a better job, but even the higher salaries and improving the standard of living. Okay. And accessibility, these are the countries with dynamic economies that are open and accepting of them. See, accessibility, that those countries are very open to all laborers to work. Okay? Because for outside laborers or migrant workers, they want to feel comfortable and feel valued by the other country. And those migrant workers are interested in the countries that we have that they gave them an opportunity to become a naturalized citizens. Because if you are an alien of the country, of course you cannot buy a lot of things like properties. But if you become a naturalized citizen, then you can have. Okay, that's why in the accessibility to migrant workers, this is a dilemma for many countries. We say dilemma. Dilemma. Which things that we need to choose? We cannot choose both. We can when say dilemma, you need to choose one and you lose the other one. That's a dilemma. Example, if both countries are very good to you, but you have only to choose one, which of them that you want to access and to lose the other one? It's a matter of choice. Okay? And those countries need to attract enough migrant workers to occupy the vacant position that which natives cannot be filled up. Because, example, in the Philippines, no, not in the Philippines. Example, in the United States, there are some native employees like Americans who doesn't want their work, and they used to give it by the foreign laborers or the migrant laborers. However, the countries do not attract migrant workers for whom that there are no vacant position. Of course, priority of the country are their natives. But if the natives if the natives cannot fill out that job vacancy, then they will offer it to the migrant workers. And the saddest thing and disadvantage that there are some workers or migrant laborers are illegal in a country, especially if their papers are not legal. Example, you're going to Singapore and your paper is only a tourist. Then after 2 months or 3 months, you need to go back to the country. But there are times that their visa are expired and they used to overstay and to work on illegal. And if this will be caught by the government, they used to deport it. They are going to deport it to which country they belong. Okay, and many there are times that this thing can happen in the illegal migrant laborers, and I hope this is the saddest thing that can be happen, and nobody wants to be an illegal worker, but people sometimes that they encounter this because they want to a job there to sustain the family, because they believe that what will happen to them if they go back to their country, which they don't, no job is waiting for them. Okay, and managing migrant workers so that supply equal and the demand is challenging for many countries. Of course, they have to manage the migrant workers because the migrant workers, of course, they have there's an equal balance between the native and the migrant workers of the country. Because what matters most is to give an employment opportunity to the natives before the migrant workers. And migrant workers is in need if the country, especially the rich countries, need for additional laborers for their economy to work or to provide employment to them. Okay, in the said businesses. So that is our topic for today.